Hi, everybody. Matt Weatherly here from Public Sector Personnel Consultants, providing a brief overview of the upcoming classification and compensation study. Our firm was selected through a competitive bid process to perform a citywide classification and compensation review. We'll be reviewing job descriptions, reviewing job titles, and conducting a salary survey. As our name suggests, this is all that our firm does. We have staff in a couple of different spots throughout the United States, but we specialize in performing these types of studies predominantly for cities, but also for counties, school districts, special districts, colleges, and universities throughout the United States. We've had a chance to work with some of your neighbors, Plano, Frisco, Dallas, Irving, Fort Worth, just to kind of name a few. Some other active projects that we're doing currently for Highland Park, some other cities around the Metroplex area. I think all that qualifies us to do is ask good questions, right? What factors influence your city's ability to recruit and to retain staff? Said another way, where is the city competing? Where else could you go to work and perform your same job, maybe without uprooting the family or changing school districts for the kids or that type of thing? Always a sensitivity to what the market is, and we'll talk about that as we move along. A few notes before we get started as far as what the study is and is not. This is something that most agencies undertake. I would say every 5 years, somewhere in there. Healthy part of a review and part of a budget process to identify where you are in the market and also to make sure if we've added or changed jobs that we don't, when we do the survey, take your job title for granted. We're not reviewing your performance. We're not reviewing your job satisfaction. We're not doing a staffing study. So it's really intended to be nothing but a positive exercise and a tool that can be utilized, for more than just kind of one budget year. The note on the bottom, I think, is probably a little bit critical as well. This is not, the study is not the means by which employees all would receive the same increase. That is typically what your annual budget is for. If you do merit review or you do a general increase or a market adjustment or that kind of thing, those are probably the more globalized one size fits all. This is going to be a review of each job, the job description, and its relative placement onto a salary table or onto a salary range. Jobs move at different rates in the market. And so if we have some jobs that are pretty competitive and other jobs that have fallen behind, we want to make sure that we address that, and we can address that through the budget process, but without replacing the budget process. It is not meant where the result of the study is some employees get a big market adjustment and other employees get nothing. Certainly in 2022 and upcoming 2023, the world continues to move based on inflation, based on wage adjustments, and then you're in a very competitive neighborhood as far as where you get employees from, where you might lose employees to. We're just trying to kind of find our spot or find the city's spot in that analysis and in that market. The classification piece of it is probably phase one, and that's where the great majority of your participation can come in. It's an opportunity for you to look at your job description. You will receive an email with a link that if you wish to fill out an online job questionnaire, you can do that. They're also available as a Word document, so if you prefer to write it out by hand or address it as a Word document, you're more than welcome to. But this is an effort at you and your coworkers in reviewing your job description, completing a questionnaire, and telling us what you do when you're at work. There's about 300 different job descriptions that are currently in the system. Our only marching order is to get it right. A couple of potential outcomes, certainly if there are 20 of you at the same job title, that through this process, you help us define that, in fact, you're doing something different than some of your coworkers with the same job title. We might split one job out into 2 or more different new, like I said, different job descriptions and job titles. The opposite could also be true. If you're performing the same job duties as one of your, somebody else in another department, but you currently have a different job title, different job description, we may merge those 2 jobs together to ensure equal pay for equal work. Over on the right-hand side of my screen share here, like I said, everyone will have an opportunity to complete a questionnaire. They can be done as a group. So if you share your job duties with 5 other people and you want to work on it as a group, our online questionnaire also allows you to kind of identify your your coworkers and group members on this questionnaire. You fill it out on paper, you can put everybody's name on it, everybody's signature on it. Feel free to work on these as a team. It is not a test, by any stretch. They will be probably 1 to 2 hour types of effort. Try not to take more than 2 hours. When you look at them online, you'll have an opportunity to save and come back later. And we'll talk about that again. But the minute that you start a questionnaire, that becomes your own unique link. And when you save and exit, you'll get a new email. I'll say that again when we get into the questionnaire screenshots, because it's very important that you go to the most recent email that you received from our Survey Alchemer or our Survey Gizmo to pick back up where you left off. Any work that you put into it, as long as you hit save, it will not be lost. And so don't panic. We can find where you left off, how much progress you've made, and we can get your questionnaire back to you if the system doesn't automatically do that for you. The salary survey piece is something that we do probably 50 times a year. We're comparing job descriptions, comparing pay plans, comparing salary structures to like jobs out in the market, maybe 12 to 15 different cities that are either nearby or are like us based on something. Could be population, could be growth, could be the nature and types of services that are being offered. The salary survey attempts to answer 2 questions. One, how are we doing, and how do we look compared to those that we're competing with? That punchline varies job by job. If I use plus or minus 5% to define competitive, and we survey 250 jobs, there's a good chance that some of our jobs are in good shape compared to market, and other jobs have fallen behind. One nice expressed goal as a follow-up is being able to answer the question, where do we want to be? Do we want all of our jobs to have a similar relationship to market? Can all of our jobs and pay be within 5% of market? How do we get there if we're not where we want to be? But choosing the comparators is a critical one. We'll be working with human resources on confirming the survey cities that we'll use for the comparison, and then try to answer those 2 big questions. How are we looking, and what do we need to offer in order to recruit and in order to retain? A couple of common outcomes of a study like this. I mentioned a few of them, maybe merging job titles together, creating a few new jobs here and there, cleaning up anything that's unused maybe, or that's been vacated and can be removed from the classification system and the salary plan itself. But then individually looking at pay ranges, deciding if the pay structure works, if the job salary table works, or if we need to make modifications to that. Placing all jobs onto the salary table. There could be a little bit of change based on market. Jobs that maybe historically have been on the same pay grade might not be anymore, or the opposite, jobs that historically were not paid on the same pay range could be brought together onto the same pay range. The study itself, again, does not replace the budget. There may be employees that, as a result of the study, do not see an adjustment. You would still be eligible for anything that you would have been eligible for anyways, typically either on October 1 or whenever you do your budget and adopt salary adjustments, that kind of thing. The PAQ process, I mentioned this, so we'll try to go into a little bit of detail, and then I do have screenshots of the questionnaire so that you have an idea of what we are looking for. All employees that have a city email will receive an email that will have a link in it. It will have a due date on it, May 11th. We want you to be able to complete a questionnaire and hit submit to your supervisor by May 11th. If you fill it out longhand on paper, keep a copy of your questionnaire, turn it into your supervisor or manager by May 11th. The email that goes out will have a link that will allow you to create a new PAQ. The only time you will use that link is when you start a new PAQ. If you go back to that link, it's going to think that you want to start a new one. So don't panic. If you save and exit along the way on the questionnaire, you will get a new email. That new email will be a generated email from either Survey Alchemer or Survey Gizmo, and that link picks up your progress wherever you left off. So it's very important that you go to whatever the most recent email is. Again, employees can work on these as a group, either paper or sitting around a computer, or if you want to scratch together some thoughts and then have one person type it up, absolutely, however you want to work that out. On my screen share here, I've got May 11th for employees to complete the questionnaire, turn it into their supervisor. We're going to create probably about a week or 10 days for supervisors to also review So my date on the bottom, bullet here, I think supervisors should really have those questionnaires reviewed by about May 20th, somewhere in the May 18th to May 20th date. You can submit comments. Nobody will change what you as an employee puts on your questionnaire. What goes to your supervisor is a PDF with a section for comments. So we get to see everything that you put down in PDF form. Nobody can change that, okay? Very important as well that if a supervisor has comments, that they share those comments with their employees, so that by the time we get the questionnaires back, if there's anything that we need to take a second look at or ask some follow-up questions, we can try and help with that. I'll do my best now on my screen shares to show you some just kind of snapshots and screenshots of what the online questionnaire looks like. We will have pre-populated an online survey for you. You can find yourself by department, by job title, confirm your name, confirm your email address, confirm your supervisor's name and your supervisor's email address. If any of those are incorrect, you can go to page 2 and that will give you an option to correct. And you can type in a better email address, you can type in a better job title, that kind of thing. If you're working on this questionnaire as a group and you select that, you can say yes to this question on here, and it will give you the ability to then, I'll say tag friends, to use probably a more social media type of language. But basically you can start to add people that are in this group questionnaire with you. Again, that'll be pre-populated by the payroll file, but you should be able to find everybody based on kind of this drop-down sequence here. You'll notice as I navigate, there are next and back buttons. You will not lose any of your progress unless, and the unless would be if you close your web browser before you get to a section that allows you to save and continue later. The first section of our questionnaire is just really kind of the elevator speech. When somebody asks you what you do for a living, what do you tell them? Looking for maybe 2 to 3, 3 to 5 sentences in this first box that describe at a high level the purpose of your position. If you wear multiple hats, maybe part of the time you're an accounting clerk and part of the time you're doing IT help desk support, we might need to compare your job to more than one job out in the market. And you can tell us about job number 1, and here's some job duties, or here's the high level purpose of the job. But job number 2, the other half of my time, or maybe it's not 50-50, maybe it's 20% of my time or 80% or that kind of thing. What is the purpose of your position? What role does your job play in allowing your department to provide municipal services? So think high level here for a moment in this summary statement. Who's the recipient of your work? Are you providing a direct service to residents, to citizens, to customers? Are you behind the scenes supporting those that do? We have one other quick question here. If you wish to share any information about what we might be looking for or need to look for out in the market. If there are other job titles in other organizations that you believe matches up very well, feel free to note that down. We will kind of look into that and kind of dig in when we do our market comparisons. We take your questionnaire content and then go pull job descriptions from these other cities and look for job matches to build out basically our salary survey database. One more section and then you are able to save and continue later, but hit next. And on this page, which is really page 2 of the questionnaire, it's a blank page. And this will be everybody's least favorite page. We're looking for you to write down and tell us about the tasks and functions and job duties that you perform. If there are things that you do every day, I would say write them down. If there are tasks that you perform that are very important but less frequently performed than every day, I would write them down. There really should not be a limit. You should be able to tab through and add additional information. The paper copy has 8 boxes. There's nothing magical about 8 duties or 6 duties or 18 duties, whatever you want to tell us about and however fine a detail you want to go into. Our job description writers will work on making the language flow and that kind of thing. It's not intended to be a writing contest. What we are looking for on here is maybe 2 to 3 sentences for each major task. Action statements, verbs, words that end in the letter S. I am operating a piece of equipment to safely dig up around a water distribution line. I'm setting up a traffic break or a traffic diversion so that we can safely work on the job site. We're filling back in, that work site and making it look, brand new, or overlaying a road. Maybe you're sitting in an office, a sample job duties like greets and receives customers, answers questions, routes customers or, developers or something to the appropriate parties or to plan review or that kind of thing. Very action-oriented types of statements on this page. Feel free to look at your current job description, but don't feel the need to cut and paste because we will have your current job description. Do a little bit better maybe than say, hey, see job description. If you do that, then we're going to think, hey, you're cool with how you're classified, and everything that is on the job description accurately reflects and depicts the job duties that you're currently performing. But if you want to supplement the job description with some comments on this page becomes the body of your job description. Ultimately, when we work on the questionnaires, it's the top of the job description, job summary, middle of the job description, which becomes the body and the listing of job duties, and then minimum qualifications, so education, experience, licenses, certifications. You will notice, if we can see on the top of my screen, there's a save and continue later. This banner will follow you around each major section. So if you're in the middle of this and you get interrupted at work, even if you start the first couple of pages, but you don't have a chance to write anything on this page, you can type a bunch of gobbledygook on this section in one of these boxes and hit save. Once you hit save and continue later, you can close that browser. The system will send you an email right where you left off, including your gobbledygook, right? But everything that you got to before that page will be captured, and then you can go in and you can edit this page. If we've successfully written down job duties and responsibilities, think about what you have to know and what you have to be good at in order to perform your job. Are there customer service skills, computer skills, equipment operating skills, supervisory or management skills, knowledge of certain codes or ordinances? Are we referring to trades manuals or statutes or ordinances for performing your work, interpreting your work, signing off on your work, anything like that? Maybe you have to be good at meeting deadlines or resolving customer complaints. Maybe you have to have knowledge of certain policies, procedures, accounting principles, that kind of thing. So think about that on this page. Again, a save and continue later banner shows up. If you get promoted, not maybe through this study, but let's say that you were promoted or you were ready to move on and the city said, wait, we would love for you to help us find your replacement. What do you start to look for on somebody's resume? What do you start to look for on somebody's job application that would suggest that they can learn how to perform the job duties and responsibilities of this position? We give you a little bit of a bailout here. We're not going to classify you out of your job. You are already performing your job duties. But if you have maybe a high school diploma and 20 years of experience, and you say, you know what, anybody new to this should really have some technical training, maybe a 2-year degree, some specific work experience. Think back to what you had when you started the position. Has something changed? Maybe. Certainly, the knowledge that you've acquired over performing your job for 10 years or 20 years is probably far going to outpace anything that somebody just with a degree and no experience would come in. So don't worry about this section, but we're looking for just kind of your input. What should be under the header of minimum qualifications? So education, high school diploma, trade school, technical school, 2 or 4-year degree, previous experience. Give us an idea of the number and type of level of years of previous experience. Maybe you're a supervisor or a manager and you should have been part of the line staff, or maybe to be a planning manager, you should have been a planner for 5 years or 7 years, or a senior planner or something like that. Also on the bottom, at least of my screen share, does your job require any licenses, any certifications, any registrations, continuing education? List of those out here. My screenshot gets a little bit cut off, but are there physical requirements? So not only are there educational and experiential requirements here, are there physical requirements? Physically, do you have to be able to stand, lift, climb, bend, drive, carry, that kind of thing? So you'll see that section on the questionnaire. Another save and continue later banner pops up. When you came to work this morning, or when you come to work every day, how do you know what to work on? Are there specific instructions provided? Is there somebody greeting you at the door with a checklist, say, hey, do this and then come see me, and do this and then come see me? Probably not, but how much latitude do you have in the course of performing your job duties? Do you get to decide what to work on? Maybe you have projects that take weeks or take months. You get to decide how to get from A to B on that project or A to Z on that project. Are you able to shift around deadlines? Maybe you have projects that you work on when you have time, but if you have immediate either customer demand or a fire to put out or something like that, those priorities and deadlines are fairly clear where you can't move everything, but do you have some latitude? When is your work reviewed? Maybe you do not work in the same building or in the same office as your supervisor. At what stage is your work reviewed? How often do you see your supervisor and interact with them? Also in this section, what level of accountability and authority are you given? Are you making significant decisions? Are you able to purchase? Are you able to request more people? What does your supervisor or manager expect you to sign off on versus what comes up that it's like, wait, I need somebody else to approve this, whether it's supervisor or department head or something like that. But if you have some purchasing guidelines or purchasing threshold, if you have any responsibility for the budget, also in this section would be good to tell us if you are responsible for any vendors, any contractors, any contract workers, consultants, anything like that, where you're signing off on their work. Tell us about that here. Bottom of this section and kind of right at the end, who do you come into contact with? Inside and outside of the city, maybe we interact with other departments to complete a staff report or get ready for budget. How about outside the organization? You have direct interaction with residents, citizens, customers, the public. Give us an idea of the nature and type of interaction that you maybe have with others. If you do oversee other employees or contractors or volunteers or anything like that, there's one drop down and it's going to take you to one more page so that when you select yes and you go to next, there is a section here for you to tell us of how many people. So who and how many people are you responsible for? If you want to attach an organization chart or point us to the budget document where there's a listing of who reports to who or anything like that. What are your responsibilities for other folks? Are you signing off on their time off requests? Are you part of training, part of the hiring process? So maybe you don't have the final say in hiring and discipline and that kind of thing. But if your manager has given you some significant input or some significant authority in some of these tasks, go ahead and kind of work through the check the box on this one. There's a save and continue later button here also. We're pretty much at the end. You can select next and short of it, a tablet with your finger, I guess you can just kind of use your mouse and sign, type in your name. And when you hit next, effectively, a couple of things will happen. It will automatically save. It will send your supervisor a PDF of the questionnaire and a page for them to sign off and say, yes, I reviewed so-and-so's questionnaire. You should also see a copy of your questionnaire land in your inbox. So you will get a PDF of your work as well. The system traps it. It's nice because it brings it out to us in a couple of different ways so that we can use the information for job description updating, more critically for job matching when we do the salary survey, but it also generates these PDFs along the way so that all parties and all stakeholders kind of have access. The questionnaire, the email might look something like this, whether it'll come from our survey system or your human resources department, you'll see it, either way. There will be a link. This is an old link, so don't worry about the specific link in this screenshot. But effectively, there will be a link, and that will create a new questionnaire. That'll be the only time that you'll use this email. And then subsequently, if you save your progress, you will get a new email from the system that you can pick up and find your progress wherever you left off. Okay. Again, May 11th. So we'll get this out. One thing that I failed to mention, I believe each page on the questionnaire also has a little bit of video instruction. So if you choose to, you can certainly see one of our staff members kind of walking through each section, just kind of as a few reminders of what we're looking for in the questionnaire. So if you'd like to take advantage of that, please feel free to do so. That pretty much gets us down the road on getting the project off the ground. We're going to try and do all of our project responsibilities, probably except for job description writing, in about 3 to 4 months. We're going to move as quickly as possible, but we also want to make sure that we get it right. So we'll be working well into the summer on this work. We will do our best to communicate all of our study findings and recommendations as well. Thank you certainly for your time in viewing the introductory video. Thank you more importantly for completing the questionnaire. If you have questions, certainly start with human resources or start with your supervisor. Again, feel free to work on it with your coworkers. Groupthink, it is the job that we're studying, not the individual. So feel free to work on these as a group, or at least fire ideas off to one another as you work on these. Thank you again, and hopefully we'll get to see everybody in the near future. Thanks so much.